More than 72,000 tons of snow has been removed from city streets. We're going to have the latest on snow clearing efforts.
After 2 days of cancellations, Sunwing Airlines has resumed southbound flights out of Pearson today.
And the Ontario NDP and Liberals have both released their campaign platforms, with advance polls open ahead of next week's provincial election.
A reaction continues to come in.
Off the drop, David went forward and nearly got a shot on.
Reaction to this, Canada's thrilling overtime victory against the United States in the Four Nations face-off final.
You're watching.
Hello, I'm Melissa Duggan.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thank you for joining us here on Live at 5. The snow clearing efforts continue around the city as we head into the weekend. It's been a long process.
CP24's Lindsay Biscaya joins us live with the latest. Okay, get us up to date. Still more snow out there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. And if we want to do a countdown, this is, I guess, day 3 of the snow removal for the city of Toronto, because they really announced that operations were going to pick up on Wednesday. You can see there's a little bit of a clearing there for people who are hopping on the bus. That's why we're right here on McCowan at a bus stop, just to take a look at how easy it is for people to get on and off the bus. I was speaking with some people earlier who didn't want to be on camera, but they were saying that it hasn't been that bad for people who are taking the bus. They say they haven't had too many issues, that it looks like this around this area. We are, of course, in Scarborough, and you can see the sidewalk, too, here on McCowan. This section is okay. Quite a bit of snow still, but it looks as though people can walk pretty easily over here. If you go south, though, and look down past Channel 9 Court, the sidewalk over there has not been cleared. That gives you an idea of what some people are facing around the city still when it comes to sidewalks, bike lanes, that sort of thing, where crews have not cleared the snow yet. And of course, this is going to be a long process. So we know that crews were on McCowan just over the bridge at the 401 earlier today, clearing snow in that area. And that has since been cleared. But the city has said it's going to be a priority basis in terms of clearing snow. They're going to try to get main roadways, hospitals, emergency routes first, and then move on to other things throughout the next couple of weeks. Mayor Olivia Chow was speaking earlier today and was asked about the snow removal. She was asked if she would be able to grade it, actually, and here's what she had to say about that.
I don't want to give a grade yet. You know, you get a report card at the end of the term, no? You don't give out a report card in the middle of, it's been a week, okay? I remember last weekend, the snow was just coming down. So, hey, look outside. The roads are very clear. Now, mind you, it's hard if you're a pedestrian to cross that big snowbank between the sidewalk and the road.
So these big snowbanks that you see right here, this is what we're looking at all around the city, of course. And again, it's pretty cold out here, so none of that snow is melting at this point, although temperatures might pick up a little bit next week, and that could help with snow removal. But at this point, again, 3 weeks is that timeline for the city of Toronto to clear all the snow and make things a little bit easier. And you'll have to watch and make sure you're not blocking anything downtown with vehicles. There's going to be some temporary snow removal signs set up, and that means you need to move your vehicle so that crews can get in and move all this snow out and melt it so that there's less snow around the city. Back to you.
Lindsay, I took the bus here to work today. The bus arrived, the doors open, and there's that big snowbank. And I'm like, well, I guess I got to just jump right on into it. So I feel the pain.
I mean, I guess that's happening somewhere. The people here were saying it wasn't a problem, but I take your word, Melissa. I'm sure it is, because there's just huge snowbanks right along the road. So it probably is an issue in some parts of the city for sure.
Thanks for that update, Lindsay. Appreciate it. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow and the executive director of St. Clair's Multi-Faith Housing Society officially opened a new supportive housing development in the Davenport area.
1120 Ossington is located just north of DuPont. It features 26 deeply affordable housing and social supports for people at risk of experiencing homelessness. The mayor talked about the importance of that building at this event today. Take a listen.
It will continue to take all of us, because right now, there is still 26,000 people on the wait list for supportive housing. Our shelter is still full with 11,000 plus people homeless every night in our shelter. Some are not even able to get into the homeless shelter. Some, they're all in warming centers. That too is full. So it takes all of us to deal with this huge affordable housing crisis. But we know it can be done.
Homelessness is not getting better, it's getting worse. Housing is incredibly hard to create. The people in this room know that better than anyone else. But we can't stop. Individually and collectively, at all levels of government and across party lines, we need to be rowing enthusiastically in the same direction to address homelessness, the most stark and demoralizing expression of the housing crisis we have created.
Toronto has been pushing to create more supportive housing units for people in need. The services provided include meals, health and dental services, mental health and addiction support, and employment and life skills.
Okay, switching gears, let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic. And CIA, it's Friday night. What are the roads looking like, my friend?
They're looking like they usually do on a Friday evening if you're making your way out. A lot of delays and a couple of problems sprinkled in the mix. So we'll start with the easier problems. I'll ease you into the issues. So westbound on the 401, heading in the Express. This is just as you make your way through Avenue Road. Stalled vehicle blocking the right lane and shoulder. As you can see, traffic not moving. Continues slow from this point all the way out to just approaching Dixie, where an update to this collision. Now just the two left lanes blocked as you make your way through here. It was involving a multi-vehicle collision. At one point, it was only the center lane getting by on the approach to Dixie, but that's a little bit of good news. Not the best news on the DVP South on the approach to the Gardiner, dealing with a collision there. That's blocking the right lane. QEW Toronto bound just through here, Ontario. Collision blocking that left lane. No emergency crews on scene of this one, and slow on the Gardiner into downtown. Here's what is going on. We are still dealing with the cleanup of the dump truck fire. Dump truck is gone, but they're just doing repairs because that fire singed the side of the highway. So the right lane and shoulder is blocked. It's creating delays on this evening drive. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Adra, thanks for that. Police continue to investigate a stabbing that left a man critically hurt.
It happened around 2:30 this morning on Dover Court Road and Geary Avenue. That's north of DuPont. Police say a man in his 30s was found with stab wounds and rushed to a trauma center.
I was upstairs in my room and I didn't hear anything. All I saw was the ambulance and a fire truck coming. Yeah.
And then when you found out somebody had been stabbed next door, what did you think?
It's really unfortunate that it happened, of course. Like, especially in this neighborhood when some stuff like this doesn't really happen. But it just really tells us that we gotta do better here.
I heard there was some stabbing there, yeah. But I don't know. I don't know these people. I never seen them before, so we're very upset because it used to be a good neighborhood.
So far, there's no word on any suspects.
A 24-year-old man has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of an 85-year-old woman in Georgina in 2022.
Bradley Strickler, who was 21 years old at the time, was found guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Sandy Gauthier. Her body was found following a fire in her home in Georgina on January 15th, 2022. Police say they arrested Strickler after using investigative genetic genealogy to identify a suspect. Now, in addition to the murder charge, he was also charged with sexual assault and arson with disregard for human life.
Police are investigating after bear spray was used inside a Brampton high school.
It happened around 12:30 at Castlebrook Secondary School near the Gore Road and Cottrell Boulevard. Peel paramedics say several people were assessed at that school. All of them seem to be okay, so that's the good news here. Peel police say a male youth is in custody, and that school has since been cleared. The investigation continues.
One person has died after the roof of a building collapsed near Creemore.
Yeah, the damage can be seen right here at the Giffins County Market in Glen Huron, where the incident took place. Officials say the roof of the building collapsed around 1:30 this afternoon. The OPP say one person was found dead inside. Berry Fire, along with the OPP, are expected to remain on scene for a number of hours.
It is 5:09 and -7. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Delta Airlines is facing its first lawsuits from that crash at Pearson Airport that left 21 people injured. Stay with us. Welcome back. Delta Airlines is facing its first lawsuits from that crash at Pearson Airport that left 21 people injured.
The plane was arriving from Minneapolis on Monday when it crashed and flipped over while attempting to land. 2 passengers have now filed separate suits, alleging the crash left them with physical and mental injuries. One of the suits alleges a litany of errors, claiming the flight crew failed to observe the most fundamental procedures for a landing approach, failed to monitor flight conditions, and failed to communicate and react in the cockpit to those conditions. Delta has offered every passenger a $30,000 good faith gesture.
And we're going to have reaction to this story coming up later on in the hour. Staying at the airport, though, Sunwing Airlines has resumed southbound flights out of Pearson today after 2 days of cancellations.
Let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman at Pearson. We know some flights have been landing, but is everything back on track?
So far, so good when it comes to the flights coming and going from Pearson today. I was up at the departures for Sunwing earlier. The ticket counter was open. People were able to leave to their sunny destinations. Here at arrivals, I mean, the board almost clear of all of these southern, destinations right now. Although last night there was a flight supposed to come in from Punta Cana just after midnight. It's delayed till 5:10 p.m. So should have landed 2 minutes ago. It still has not. The one right below it, Veradero, was supposed to come at 2:20. It's now coming at 5:35. I mean, this is the least of the worries, though, when it comes to delays. We've had passengers that we've been talking to on CP24 the last 24, 48 hours who've been describing these nightmare vacations with the airliner. Essentially, their biggest gripe with Sunwing has been the lack of communication, they say. They didn't know what was going to happen. Their flight was delayed, canceled, and then no update on a rebooking, no communication, they say, when it comes to when their shuttles were coming to pick them up to go to the airport. Some describing having to sleep in the lobby of their hotel. And you can imagine how taxing that is for the average person, but especially so for the families with small kids and for seniors as well. We know that at Pearson today, essentially most of the Sunwing flights were business as usual. Out of 14 flights scheduled to land in Toronto, 5 were canceled, 2 delayed. But it came after not only the Delta crash here at the airport on Monday, which shuttered down a couple of the runways, which are, by the way, still closed and awaiting final inspection until they can reopen. But the snowstorm 1-2 punch also really hampered Sunwing's ability to get some of these passengers back home, along with, we're hearing, failure to cancel or reschedule as many flights as other airlines successfully did. So as we're watching a lot of these passengers come back from obviously different destinations, I was talking to people on board flights from Santa Clara, Cuba earlier, from Cayacoco as well, and now Cancun arriving. These are all passengers who came and went business as usual, no delays for them. But we're hearing there are still hundreds of Canadians stranded down south waiting to come back home on Sunwing flights. Back to you guys.
All right, Beatrice Vaisman live at Pearson for us. Thanks for this update, Beatrice. It's 5:14 minus 7. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, we are heading into the final weekend of the election campaign. Ontario voters head to the polls in just 6 days. We're counting down.
Welcome back. NDP leader Marit Stiles made 2 stops in Hamilton today.
She toured the YMCA shelter in Hamilton and spoke to staff and volunteers there. The center provides supports and resources for women and girls and includes a child care center.
There's no question. Hamilton, frankly, thank goodness many in Hamilton have stepped up to support each other and to support community members here. The Y has really stepped forward. We know they're doing really important work, and people like Dr. Robin Lennox, our candidate here in Hamilton Centre, has done just an extraordinary job. But we need to act urgently, right? Because the reality in Ontario after 7 years of Doug Ford and the Conservatives is that these encampments and homelessness and the mental health and addictions crisis is rampant in every community across this province.
And Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie was in Toronto this morning where she unveiled her costed election platform. Crombie says it'll feature $9 billion in net new spending and include a focus on the province's education system.
Our school system used to be the envy of the world, our elementary, our post-secondary, and it's really failed over the last 7 years under Doug Ford. And we see our classrooms overcrowded, our schools crumbling. Our young people are spilling out into portables so they're too cold in the winter. We see them bundled up wearing their parkas. In the summer, they're too warm. We see our educators tell us that, they don't have the resources they need. In fact, not even every child has a textbook. They don't have a budget to do photocopying.
The Daily Nanos research poll for CTV News shows Bonnie Crombie gaining a little bit of ground on Doug Ford when it comes to who voters want to be premier. 41.4% of those polled chose Ford, while 26.8% picked Crombie. That's up 1.4% from yesterday. 14.2% said Mart Stiles. 6.6% chose Mike Schreiner. 4.5% of those surveyed chose none of them. Just under 6% said they were not sure.
And when it comes to overall party support, Doug Ford's progressive conservatives are up over 1% to just over 45%. The Liberals are up 0.6 to 31.3%. You'll see that the New Democrats are up 0.2 to 16.8% support. And then take a look at this. The Greens, they're down 1.5 to just over 5%. And while Doug Ford leads in most of Ontario, Nick Nanos tells CP24 Bonnie Crombie has a healthy lead in Toronto.
When you check out the numbers in Toronto on the preferred premier number, she's actually ahead 11 points as the person Torontonians would prefer as premier. It's 42-31. I think what we're probably going to see from the Crombie campaign, it's going to be hard for her to stop or defeat Doug Ford. Right now, the game for her, at least, as the main challenger, is to try to pick up as many seats. And it looks like focusing on Toronto is probably a good strategy for the Liberals and Bonnie Crombie.
And heads up for voters, advanced polls are open again today and tomorrow. Election day, of course, is next Thursday.
Well, Premier Doug Ford is back in Washington for meetings with U.S. lawmakers to discuss the potential ramifications of tariffs on Canadians and Americans. He spoke with the media this afternoon following talks with Georgia's governor.
We're just getting the message out that it's stronger together, build the AmCan fortress, work together, and that's the message. Again, I've said this every single time I'm down here. I've yet to hear a governor, senator, congressman saying, "Yeah, let's go attack economically Canada." We just aren't hearing that.
There's a lot of respect for the relationship between our two countries, long-standing. These are friendly, good neighbors, friends, family ties, all kinds. So there's a lot of respect for the relationship, but there's also the president is the president, so there's some of that as well. But we just continue to push the message that we want to work together. We support each other in business and just in so many different ways. We also share concerns around the border. We share concern. Nobody wants fentanyl in our community, so we have a lot that we share, and we're just kind of reminding people that we're in this together.
A new Leger poll indicates 70% of Canadians are in favor of dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. 81% of respondents say they fear U.S. President Trump will use tariffs and trade sanctions to attempt to force Canada into a closer and more formal union. Just over two-thirds say they are buying more local Canadian products, while 30% say that they had a trip planned to the U.S. and they canceled it.
It's 5:21 now, -7. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, reaction continues to come in to Canada's thrilling overtime victory against the U.S. in the Four Nations Face-Off Final. Stay with us. It is what everybody's talking about today.
Oh, yeah.
Canada's win over the United States. And it was bigger than just hockey, with the ongoing political tensions adding some more meaning to the matchup.
And making that victory so much sweeter. CP24's Sija Lu's downtown speaking with people about that stunning win. What are you hearing from fans, Sija?
Well, a lot of Canadians that we're talking to today say what a time to be alive, and that Canada is the king of international hockey, proving it once again. And they were just so excited to watch this game. There was so much tension, and when Connor McDavid scored that overtime goal, emotional, tense, and just the perfect way to wrap up the Four Nations final. And for more fan reaction, I'm joined by Dan and his daughter, who they are actually from New York, but they are Team Canada all the way. How does that happen? You're from the States, but you are Team Canada.
Well, we always like to root for the underdog. Not that Canada would naturally be the underdog, but I know that they were beaten by Team USA once already, and the word around Team USA was they were going to slaughter Canada again. So we were pleased to see the spirit was strong here in Canada for the home team, and we got caught up in it. It was just a matter of, the team camaraderie and the spirit, real energy that was pervasive throughout Canada where we've been so far, and we were caught up in it, all Canada.
You watched the game last night at a watch party on the big screen, surrounded by lots of other Canadian fans. What was that moment like when Connor McDavid scored the overtime goal?
Well, my son was with me. My daughter was with me. We have minor league hockey back in our hometown. It's a great time. It's a big social event. We go as often as we can. But we were riveted. We were riveted to the screen, and all of us said at the end of it that we can't recall watching every puck drop, every move, every skate, we were just riveted to our seats.
Such a memorable moment. Well, thank you so much, Shannon. And I guess we can say you could be an honorary Canadian citizen now with all this support. We appreciate it. But that's how everyone is feeling today, whether you're Canadian or not. A lot of Canadian pride. And the next time these two teams will face off, best on best, will be in the 2026 Winter Olympics in Canada. We have the bragging rights going into that match. Back to you.
Oh, yeah, we will be ready. Sija Liu reporting live. Great chatting with those fans. Thanks, Sija. Mm-hmm. Well, students at Laura Dufferin Public School took part in a really special Black History Month event today.
The event organized by the Black Students Alliance included a special screening of Steadfast, The Messenger and the Message, the story of Jean Augustine. Augustine was the first Black woman elected to the House of Commons and was a leading voice in establishing Black History Month in Canada.
When we're talking about the contribution of African Canadians, that I was fortunate to have been in the Parliament of Canada and had the opportunity to present to my colleagues the motion to declare February as Black History Month. But most important, the story that they'll be watching today is really about it's the immigrant story. It's my story, but it's the immigrant story. And each young person and each older person and each person of my generation can see themselves reflected in the documentary in some way.
Oh, love her. And the TDSB's theme for this year's Black History Month is Lift Every Voice, meant to encourage collective strength, unity, resilience among students.
It is 5:28 and -7. This is Live at 5.
And we're live inside Pearson Airport's Terminal 3 this hour, where Sunwing has resumed flights after 2 days of cancellations. We'll check in with Beatrice Faisman next.
More than 72,000 tons of snow now removed from city streets. We'll have the latest on those snow clearing efforts coming up.
And after 2 days of cancellations, Sunwing Airlines has resumed southbound flights out of Pearson today. We're live with more on that.
The Ontario NDP and Liberals have both released their campaign platforms with advanced polls open ahead of next week's provincial election.
Off the drop, McDavid went forward and nearly got it.
Evening, and thank you for joining us on Live at 5. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Melissa Duggan. Welcome. Sunwing Airlines has resumed southbound flights out of Pearson today after 2 days of cancellation.
Let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Faisman, who is at Pearson with the very latest tonight. Beatrice.
Lena, Melissa, there are fresh people going down to the Caribbean, all eager for their vacation. They left today. The Sunwing check-in counter was working all day long, fairly seamless as far as we've heard. I want to point you to this one flight in particular, Punta Cana, Sunwing was supposed to come in just after midnight. It says delayed till 5:10, according to a Flight Tracker, a program which tracks planes that are in the air. This plane is actually right now over North Carolina, and what we're hearing is that this was a plane that's been chartered by Sunwing to go down to Punta Cana to rescue people, bring them back home. These are people who would have been stranded for the last couple of days for two reasons. One, because of Monday's plane crash here in the city that closed 2 runways, which, by the way, are still closed. And, of course, the snowstorm 1-2 punch that we received over the weekend as well. We've been sharing stories the last few days from some of these stranded passengers describing really just a nightmare situation to CP24. Many of them, really, their biggest point of contention is communication. They said that they were essentially left in the dark by Sunwing. There was little to no communication. Their flights were repeatedly delayed before being canceled, sometimes multiple times. We heard stories about families and travelers having to sleep in the lobbies of their hotels. Tough for any traveler, especially tough if you've got children or if you're a senior who's traveling. Others spent thousands of dollars either trying to find accommodation to stay at until they were able to come home on one of these rescue flights, or sometimes just rebooking their ticket altogether with a different airline in hopes of coming home. Today, after 2 days of cancellations by Sunwing, things were back up and running. Out of 14 flights scheduled to land here in the city today, 5 were canceled, 2 delayed. And it also, not only was there a concern over the storm, but Sunwing citing crew constraints and limited hotel capacity for reasons that took them so long to get some of these stranded passengers home. And so what we're hearing, there's still hundreds of people stranded all across the Caribbean waiting to return home to all across the country on board Sunwing flights. Also, people had their vacations canceled Wednesday, Thursday. I spoke to one of those women here at Pearson Airport earlier today, just notified just a few hours before she was going to leave home to come to the airport to embark to a sunny destination. She's now rebooked with a different air carrier, different hotel vacation package altogether. But those people whose trips were ultimately canceled, Lena and Melissa, will get full refunds, Sunwing says, within 21 business days. So it's been a very frustrating few days of travel for many people, especially those who are still trying to figure out how they're going to get home. Back to you.
The latest on all that air travel stuff. I appreciate that, Beatrice. All right, let's check in on the roads now on the commute with CP24 traffic specialist Adjoa Nsia-Yeboah. Adjoa, what's it looking like out there?
Oh, okay. We can't connect with Adjoa just yet.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a pretty busy go out there, Melissa and Lena. Things have been very tough on the major routes. So if your travels do take you onto the Don Valley Parkway, we'll start there. If you're traveling southbound, this is just as you make your way on the approach to Richmond. Issues of some sort that are in the right lane. MTO is not sure if it's a collision or a vehicle that was smoking, but either way, that right lane is blocked. Further south, as you make your way on to the DVP, we're still on it on the approach to the Gardner. The right lane and shoulder blocked with a separate situation, really creating a delay because of both of these problems from before Eglinton. Then Toronto bound on the QEW. Emergency crews finally arriving on scene through here, Ontario, where a collision still there in the left lane. And then if you're continuing on to the Gardner, jam from Royal York all the way out to past Jameson through the construction zone. Right lane is still blocked with Toronto transportation crews that are cleaning up following a truck fire that happened this afternoon. And up on the 401, problems as well in the express westbound at Avenue. Right lane blocked with a stall, then a collision further west on the 401. As you make your way in the collectors this time through the Allen, it looks like it is the left lane that is occupied. I'll leave you with some good news, though. Westbound 401, we had those problems. They were in the collectors. At one point, it was only a center lane getting by following a multi-vehicle crash. Problems to Renforth at least have cleared. I'll send it back to you both.
Lots of track there. Thanks for that, Adjoa. Well, this might help move people around over the next little while. The snow clearing efforts continue around the city as we head into the weekend.
And CP24's Lindsay Biscaya joins us live with the latest. Melissa was talking about how hard it's been for commuters to get around, especially those taking the bus, Lindsay. Have you learned anything about that?
Well, we're actually at the bus stop that Melissa referenced earlier, where she would get off the bus to come to work. We crossed the street in McCowan. I'll show you that in a moment, but first I'm going to demonstrate the sidewalk over here. I'll demonstrate walking because this sidewalk not really plowed properly, as you can see. It's not easy to walk on. I will say, me and Tristan were walking over here, slipping on the snow because, as you can see, hasn't been plowed yet. There's huge chunks of snow, and everyone is slipping and sliding to get to here. So this is, if a bus were to pull up, Melissa, we watched it happen. If they pulled up here, you can see this little section is cleared. Perhaps maybe if the bus doesn't actually stop right here and stops a little bit beforehand, then you can see there's a snowbank and it's pretty difficult to get on or off the bus. So it is making for some tricky commutes. You can see a gentleman coming up just over here trying to walk on the sidewalk. It is not easy if it's not plowed. And this is what a lot of people around Toronto have been dealing with as crews work to actually get things plowed, plow the sidewalks, plow the bike lanes. How is that for you? Is it hard to get around?
Of course.
Yeah. Are you getting the bus? Are you waiting for the bus?
Yes, I am.
And is it difficult with the snow to be able to get on and off the bus?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, good luck. Thank you. So, there you go. People able to get on off the bus okay here, but of course this is an issue for a lot of people, especially if you have any kind of mobility issues. So the city says it's going to take about 3 weeks, Melissa and Lena, to get all the snow in and around the city cleared. And we heard from the mayor today who was talking about that. Take a listen.
Please, to the drivers, streetcar, if you see streetcar on it, it means it's a snow route. Please don't park because we're going to fine you. We're going to tow you, and you are making life really difficult for a whole lot of TEC riders.
So this is going to take a little bit, and the mayor has said, she was asked today if she wanted to grade the snow cleaning efforts around the city. She said no. And keep in mind, if you are downtown, obviously you can see sidewalks, bike lanes are most affected by this. There's a whole ton of snow, and it is going to get cleared. We saw crews working on McCowan earlier today, but residents are being reminded to be patient and to make sure if you drive a vehicle, make sure that vehicle is not in the way of snow routes, streetcars, and if you see the temporary snow removal signs that are going to be going up around the city, you're being asked to move your car or else it will be ticketed or towed while crews continue to work to move all of this snow. And hopefully we don't get more in the next 3 weeks. Back to you.
That was a great kind of real-time demonstration you got there, Lindsay, of not only walking down that sidewalk, but also being able to jump onto the bus as well. A lot of challenges, especially if you have mobility issues. You're right to mention that.
Okay, Lindsay, thanks so much for this. Well, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow and the executive director of St. Clair's Multi-Faith Housing Society officially opened a new supportive housing building in the Davenport area today.
1120 Ossington is located just north of DuPont. It features 26 deeply affordable housing and social supports for people at risk of experiencing homelessness. The mayor talked about the importance of the building at today's event.
What a great project it is. It uses the mass timber technology, modular construction. You know how fast it got done? Take a deep breath. 17 days, okay? 17 working days. This building got put together. And if anyone tells me that we cannot deal with homelessness, they're wrong.
The 25 people who are moving in out of the cold in this month of February are all people who are leaving homelessness behind. They are referred to these units by Covenant House, Streets to Homes, Madison Community Homes, NAMI Res, and Thunder Woman Lodge. That's huge. And the intrinsic value of those 25 people make it worthwhile to fight the uphill battle to create new housing.
Toronto's been pushing to create more supportive housing units for people in need. Services provided often include meals, health and dental services, mental health and addiction support, and employment and life skills.
Police continue to investigate a stabbing that left a man critically hurt.
It happened around 2:30 this morning on Dovercourt Road and Geary Avenue. That's north of DuPont. Police say a man in his 30s was found with stab wounds and rushed to a trauma center.
I was upstairs in my room and I didn't hear anything. All I saw was the ambulance and the fire truck coming.
And then when you found out somebody had been stabbed next door, what did you think?
It's really unfortunate that it happened, of course, like especially in this neighborhood when some stuff like this doesn't really happen. But it just really tells us that we gotta do better here.
I heard there was some stabbing there, but I don't know these people. I never seen them before, so we're very upset because it used to be a good neighborhood.
So far, there's no word on any suspects.
You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Coming up, Delta Airlines facing its first lawsuits from the crash at Pearson Airport that left 21 people hurt. We're going to talk to an aviation expert about this next. Delta Airlines is facing its first lawsuits from the crash at Pearson Airport that left 21 people injured.
The plane was arriving from Minneapolis on Monday when it crashed and flipped over while attempting to land. 2 passengers have now filed separate suits alleging the crash left them with physical and mental injuries. One of the suits alleges a litany of errors, claiming the flight crew failed to observe the most fundamental procedures for a landing approach, failed to monitor flight conditions, and also failed to communicate and react packed in the cockpit to those conditions. Delta has offered every passenger a $30,000 good faith gesture. And for a closer look at this, we're joined live tonight by John Gradick, lecturer at McGill University's Aviation Management Program. John, good to see you as always. Thanks for joining us on the show tonight.
My pleasure to be here.
So this was obviously deeply traumatizing for everybody on board that flight. It's still remarkable that there were no casualties here. With that in mind, I'm sure this is not surprising to you.
No, it's not. I think this is standard operating procedure for litigating lawyers to basically go out there and to try to start the ball rolling with respect to payouts associated with trauma and with PTSD for the surviving passengers. We've seen this on several occasions recently, and I think the most recent we had was when the Alaska Airlines door blew out, and we're still going through litigation on the settlement for that one.
Now, we don't yet know the cause of this crash. That's still part of an ongoing investigation. It could be some time before we find out, the ultimate outcome of the investigations. There are several of them underway right now. But this lawsuit already pointing to a number of things that these lawyers, these claimants say went wrong. I wonder if there's anything we could read into there.
No, we can't. I think that they're just grasping at situations that may have been talked about in the media about potential causes for this one. Talking about things like miscommunication in the cockpit. Unless you were there or unless you had the actual data from the flight data recorder or flight voice recorder, you can't come to those conclusions. So they're just grasping at straws. They're just grasping at issues that are in the media. So there's no conclusion. We won't hear from the TSB officially until probably about March 15th or thereabouts, where they issue the 30-day report. And we'll take about a year before we get the official detailed report from the TSB. So we got a ways to go before we, in fact, have any details that this suit alleges.
John, I wonder what you think about Delta offering every passenger a $30,000 claim as a good faith gesture. Was that the airline trying to get ahead of the damage? And how much do you think this may ultimately cost Delta? Are we talking like millions of dollars here?
It could be. It all depends on the case that's being made by the lawyers. I think this is trauma. This is mental anguish, and it's about PTSD symptoms. It's about the mental state of the passengers. Coming through on that airplane, and I put myself in the shoes of those passengers. Hitting the runway and then flying through the air and then landing on the roof of the airplane, and you're hanging from your seatbelt on the airplane. You're going through some pretty nasty mental gyrations, and some of them, could be fairly lasting. So there is grounds. There is a ground for significant payout. I can't even imagine what the payout would be, but $30,000 that Delta was offering is really, small stuff compared to what they might get at the end.
And this is certainly just the beginning of those legal procedures. Yeah. John Gradick, lecturer at McGill University's Aviation Management Program. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
My pleasure. Have a good evening.
Nice to be with you, John. Thank you for this. You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's Breaking News, CP24.
Coming up, we'll tell you about a baby that underwent heart surgery at Sick Kids while waiting for a transplant. This is little Sloan. A baby from BC underwent heart surgery here in Toronto as she waits for a transplant.
Sloan Atkinson is 4 months old. This is Sloan. When she was just 6 weeks old, her parents found out that she had a gene variation that resulted in her heart barely beating. She was transferred to Sick Kids Hospital, where surgeons implanted a heart pump called a ventricular assist device to stabilize her. Sloan has to stay in hospital as she waits for that transplant now. And her parents spoke to CP24 about their unexpected journey.
She was 6.5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we thought we were being like first-time parents that are just like thinking something dramatic was wrong when she wasn't showing like major signs of anything, of being in distress, really. And so we kind of decided to go to the hospital out of an abundance of caution, and we thought they'd just send us home. Maybe she wasn't feeling well. And so it was definitely the shock of a lifetime.
We quickly went in the emergency room, and we had a room full of kids that were coughing. We just figured it was that. And then all of a sudden we get to the desk, they check her out, and they quickly move us along. to a room, and then from there it kind of started to really escalate pretty quickly. So within, say, a matter of 2 hours, we were going from one room to the other into a third room when there's 30 doctors that are now around us before they bring the cardiologist. They do an echo on her and tell us that her heart's only function at 14%, and then they need to get her upstairs immediately.
And we're learning more about the care that Sloan's getting. Dr. Amir Jiwa is the medical director of the VAD program at Sick Kids.
This is the technology that we use for babies and children who develop heart failure. This is an example of one of the pumps that she has. It just you can see how small it is, and it does provide good support for her so that she's able to look like that and do all the all the required things to kind of get rehabbed and stronger.
Oh, Sloan is adorable. Sick Kids is home to the only pediatric VAD program in Ontario and one of just 3 in Canada. Since its launch in 2004, about 90% of patients received a transplant or recovered their heart function. It's considered a key tool in treating end-stage heart failure in children. She is in very good hands at Sick Kids Hospital. It's one of the best.
And a lovely family to share their story with us, too. It is 5:53 and -7. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, reaction continues to stunning overtime victory against the U.S. in the Four Nations face-off final. We'll tell you more. Welcome back. Well, a lot of people are talking about this one, the national anthem and the game, that is. Yeah. Canada's win over the United States was bigger than just hockey, with the ongoing political tensions adding some more meaning to the matchup.
CP24's Sija Liu was downtown speaking with people about the victory. I'm guessing they're still cheering their hearts out right now, Sija.
That's right. Every fan I've been speaking with say they are still on cloud 9 from that amazing win last night in the Four Nations final. Canada defeating U.S. with Connor McDavid scoring that amazing overtime goal 8 minutes in. They say this is the most fun they've had watching a hockey game since the 2010 Olympic gold medal match, and that there was a lot on the line. This was bigger than just hockey, considering all the tension between Canada and U.S. with the tariffs. Before the game, President Donald Trump was trolling Canada, calling us the 51st state once again. But since we got the win, it's kind of been crickets. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is also taking his shots back, saying, you can't take our country, you can't take our game. And that's how a lot of fans are feeling today. Take a listen to some of the reaction we're hearing.
It was great. It was great. Nice goal at the end. Mitch Marner, 2 beautiful passes, and I thought Canada's goals were prettier goals, I guess, if for a lack of a better word, but yeah, it was a great game.
It's amazing. Yeah, it was so good, so exciting. We were on the edge of our seats, and with McDavid, it was perfect.
Same thing, yeah. I think it's great for Canada. Yeah, it's just a monumental game for everybody.
Yeah, you could feel the energy from your couch.
And there was a lot of talk before the game even started when it came to the Canadian national anthem. The singer changed the lyrics on purpose. So instead of singing "In All of Us Command," she said "That Only Us Command." She said she did that intentionally as a way to protest everything Donald Trump has been saying about Canada becoming the 51st state. But now that Canada has officially gotten this amazing win, cementing their place as the king of international hockey, they will have bragging rights for the next year or so, because the next time these two teams will face off in this international best-on-best matchup will be the 2026 Olympic Games in Italy. But this wasn't just a win for Canada. It was also a huge win for hockey. People have been praising the Four Nations format, saying it's a lot better than the All-Star format. So overall, it was a huge win for Team Canada, for hockey, for 40-plus million people rocking their red and white. Back to you.
Yeah, nothing unites Canadians like hockey and Donald Trump these days. Sija Liu reporting live. Thanks so much for this, Sija. Appreciate your reporting. It's 5:59, -7 out there. You're watching Toronto's breaking news. CP24 feeling more like -15, though we are in for some warmer weather toward the end of the week.
Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.